Well, it's always good to be in church on Sunday morning.
Amen, brother!
I want to tell I don't come to Washington all that often, but I want to tell you my sort of Obama story, early story. A couple of weeks after the inauguration, I was supposed to come here and give a talk at the Department of Justice, and it was the first time I'd been here since the
Not there.
guard, you know. And I remember walking in. When you walk into a federal building now, you got to sign in, of course, and there's a lot of security. And while I was doing it, I was looking up at the wall, and there on the wall behind the guard, there was a picture of Barack Obama and a picture of Eric Holder. And I remember thinking, man, this is a new town. This is a different place. Doesn't that look great? And then I walked upstairs and I was giving my talk in the incredibly beautiful, one of the most beautiful rooms in Washington, the Great Hall of Justice up on the top of the, and behind me when I was speaking, there's like this 20-foot tall, high sculpture of Lady Justice. Now, during the Bush years, the Attorney General had draped a blue tarpaulin over the statue because Lady Justice had the bad taste to have one bare breast, so this wasn't allowed. But one of the first things that the new Attorney General did was take that tarpaulin off, and I thought, boy, is it nice to be back in a town run by adults, you know? And that same kind of wonderful change has been going on and on and on. There have been all kinds of good things that have happened in this city in the last 18 months. To see a government that looks like America is a great thing. In the part of the world I know about, sort of science and the environment, to see incredibly smart people and committed people like Stephen Chu, the Nobel laureate in physics at the head of the Department of Energy, is a remarkable thing. All of that is really, really good. So the trouble is that, sad to say, we need more. And the reason we need more is because the things that we didn't take action on for the 20 years before piled up and accumulated and mounted up, and they don't leave us much room or time to take action, and no place is that clear than when it comes to climate change. Last week, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, President Obama's chief observers of this planet, told us that the temperature for the 12 months ended in May were the warmest 12 months for which we had records. We've just come through the warmest May and the warmest April for which there are records all over the world. And we're beginning to see the incredible effects of that. The pace of ice melt in the Arctic this year is ahead even of the record year of 2007. Things are deteriorating very, very quickly. I told you last night about talking to our 350.org friends in the Asian subcontinent, where hundreds of people are dying every day now in the worst heat wave they've seen ever, where the temperature in Pakistan last week reached 129 degrees, set a new record for Asia. So no fair complaining if it's 91 or 92 or whatever it is out here today. Imagine it 40 degrees warmer than it is right now, you know. The thing that we know, thanks again to NASA, is that there is, you know, that unlike many issues that we face, there's nothing at all nebulous about where we stand with climate. We know now what we have to do. Any value for carbon in the atmosphere greater than 350 parts per million isn't, as NASA put it, compatible with the planet on which civilization developed and to which life on Earth is adapted. So that's a hard and fast set of numbers that we all have to pay attention to. And so far, unfortunately, the administration's not been willing to listen to that. When they go to places like Copenhagen, they're talking about old numbers, 450 or 500 parts per million. They talk about global warming as something that we have to prevent our grandchildren from suffering instead of dealing with the crisis that's here in front of us. And I completely understand that reluctance, because the work that we would need to do if we took seriously the problem in front of us is immense and difficult. We would have to take out the most important part of our economy, its reliance on cheap fossil fuel, and replace it with something else, and do it fast. And that'll be not only technically hard, it's politically hard. It means dealing with the most profitable enterprise in the history of the world. Nothing makes more money than finding and refining fossil fuels. So what the president's people tend to say when we talk to them is, oh, pushing it that fast would be unrealistic. And what they mean is that it would be politically unrealistic. And in a sense, they're correct. At the very least, it would be politically very, very hard. The problem is that in this sphere, reality trumps political reality. God created this world with certain parameters and boundaries, and we're finding out what those are. And the trouble is, though there's incredibly difficult negotiations with Republicans and with the Chinese, and those aren't the real negotiations that are underway. The real negotiation is going on between human beings on the one hand and physics and chemistry on the other hand, okay? And that's, I mean, in some sense, you could say the negotiation is going on the one hand between human beings and on the other hand between creation. And the trouble with trying to debate physics and chemistry is they don't care. It doesn't matter to them that you need 60 votes to get past the filibuster and that makes things tough. It doesn't matter to them that we're in a tough economic patch. They're not going to suspend the laws of nature for 10 or 20 years or till when it's convenient, if it ever was going to be convenient, and it's probably never going to be all that convenient to deal with something this big. So we got to stop that kind of halfway thing. And in fact, if we do stop it, maybe there'll be some political benefits as well. The president got his fingers burnt a couple of months ago in an attempt to kind of engage in this little baby steps at a time kind of approach. He announced that he was going to end the long-standing moratorium on offshore drilling. Okay? Now, I'm a Methodist. I don't believe Methodists actually officially believe in karma, but it was something that 2 weeks later we had the worst drilling accident we've ever had, with 11 people dead, and now the Gulf of Mexico turned into a big, inky, ugly pool. That should teach the president a lesson, and it should teach us all a lesson. That at a certain level, these are things you can't finesse. Just because it would be politically nice to be able to delay or go halfway, we have no choice but to go full speed ahead and hope that if we do that, we're still in time, of which there's no guarantee. I was thinking about, it's probably a bad metaphor for someone dealing with fossil fuel, but to me, I was sort of thinking about it. You know how sometimes you're in a car with someone else and someone else is driving? At least for me, it's often sort of difficult to have somebody else driving, okay? Sometimes they're driving way too fast and too recklessly, and you want to, come on, slow down, take it easy, we got time. I mean, that was the Bush administration. We just drove wherever we felt like. It was sort of Mr. Magoo, you know, off the cliff and over the hill and wherever it was, leaving this sort of trail behind. Well, President Obama's a little different. The trouble is we're driving 20 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone, you know? And that makes you a little antsy, too, when you know you've got to get someplace on time. We need him to speed up a little bit, to take a little more seriously the trouble that we're facing. And here's the good thing, and here's the place where I'm going to end. Here's the good thing. We're not asking of him something that he's not capable of doing. Everybody liked watching Barack Obama when he was running for president, but what we really liked watching was his campaign, because it was amazing. He was able to rally all of us to come do the work, to get excited, to join in, to suspend our cynicism for a while, to really be a part of things. He's good at that. When he's in campaign mode, it works really, really well. So we need him campaigning on all the issues that are important, especially climate change. He can do it. He can do it, and we can do it behind him. And we're just waiting for the call to fall in line, to get to work our hearts out. Thank you all so much.
Yeah.